Welcome back to my studio. My name is Monica, and today I thought we could talk a little bit about nature journaling and how you can do it without leaving your backyard. And I'm just going to give this a little spin around. Um, this is my backyard, and it's very nice because Maisie's got a lot of room to run. I used to have a garden back here, but I haven't done anything in a few years. Like when my husband deployed, it's a lot of work, to do by yourself. So I thought today we could just, take a walk around and look at some of the stuff that is out here. And you don't have to have a big backyard. You don't even have to have a backyard, really. If you live in an apartment, you can always take a walk down to a park or find a bench to sit on. There's always something to sketch out in nature. And, there are weeds that you can sketch. Even the texture of this tree is really interesting. So don't count out trees. Trees are all around us, and I think people have a tendency to forget about that. And today I have a bunch of milkweed popping up in what used to be my garden, and there's still some leftover herbs like mint and oregano. And it's kind of funny because when I mow back here, you get a big whiff of all of the herbs, which is actually really nice. I love it. But these flowers that I have back here that I want to show you, this is called Dame's Rocket, and these pop up every couple of years or so, and I left this one. My husband is doing some military stuff for a couple of weeks, so I got the weed eater out and did the around the edges of these poles and left these flowers. And we have this big mass of basically weeds, and it's a natural habitat, really. We dump leaves back here, brush, or maybe pumpkins that are used from Halloween, like jack-o'-lanterns, that kind of thing. I've had pumpkins reseed themselves and grow back here, which is kind of fun. But it's just fun to look at all of the different things that are happening. Some beautiful nettle, and this is stinging nettle, so you'll know it when you brush up against it. It's got those little hairs underneath. And then there's some Dame's Rocket out here. I've got some motherwort, and I also have my sweet peas that are coming up over here with some more of the Dame's Rocket, and a lot of nettle this year. But what I wanted to show you was I've always been very interested in wild edibles and herbs, and especially medicinal herbs. And comfrey is a big one. And somebody had some comfrey, and they dug it out of their garden and gave me some. And these used to be really, really manageable, small bushes, and they have just really taken off. And they're good for a lot of things, and I'm not going to go into that here today, but I did want to show you how beautiful these flowers really are. Let's see if I can get up. There we go. They're just gorgeous. So, there's something to sketch, I mean, everywhere that you look. And I remember when I came back from the nature workshop, it was a botanical workshop, I was so inspired because I thought, I'll never run out of material. I can just literally sketch a weed. And in the wintertime here, it's kind of difficult. So there are twigs and pieces of bark that have fallen on the ground, so I would resort to sketching that. And you can see I've got stuff out here for my grandson. but I've got these lilies that come up every year, and then I've got some irises that are blooming. And this brush that we have behind the garage has become another little habitat for critters, so I don't mind that, though. So even if you look down where you're walking, you can find plenty of things to sketch, even just a leaf. And my dog's gross ball that I don't have the heart to throw it away because she seems to love it for some reason. She's got about 100 different balls, but you could really just sit on the ground and sketch a leaf. And you'll find when you get on the ground and start looking, you're going to find things like chickweed and little flowers that are really sweet. And today I think I'm going to grab a chair, and I think I'm going to go sit back here. And I really want to sketch the flowers on the comfrey and maybe some of that dame's rocket. So that's what we're going to do today. I am actually in my backyard, and it is the next day. And the reason I didn't film yesterday afternoon is I had the sunlight coming through the tree, and it made all of these shadows on my sketchbook, so it was a little bit difficult to see. But what I've done is, and this is tip number one really, to make yourself comfortable. You're in your own backyard, grab a chair, a folding table, do whatever you need to do to make your sketching time comfortable. You can even throw a blanket on the ground, but make it a thing, make it as nice for yourself as possible. Grab a cup of tea, cup of coffee, and, make it a pleasant experience. So what I have here is my nature journal, and I also have my perpetual journal, and this is the journal that I document the plants or insects in every week, and I have not done it for the last couple of months. I think the last thing that I put in here was dandelion. So I'm going to add the dame's rocket to this journal, and today I'm going to work on the comfrey, and I'm going to put this stem with the flowers at the end, and I'm going to go across these 2 pages. So when you're journaling, you can also pick really simple subjects too. You can just sketch a leaf. And I had actually thought about using a 2-page spread to do multiple flowers and then title it, backyard corner. But I think what I want to do is I'm going to utilize both pages for one flower for this corner, and then maybe next time I come back, I'll do something else on the next 2 pages that are another plant that grows back here. So I'm probably going to speed a lot of this up. I'll slow it down here and there. But let's go ahead and get sketching. So I'm going to start this sketch off with my Micron pen, and this is a 005. And I'm lightly going to map out where I want this big stem to live. And what I like so much about the comfrey is that it's relatively simple to draw because the leaves are so big. There's not like a ton of foliage that's coming off of this plant, and then it gets a little bit chaotic with trying to figure out which leaf is where. But one of the cool things too about sitting out here is that I get to watch bees and the birds. They're not used to me being back here, and it's just kind of cool to have a different environment to sit in my backyard. I don't usually sit back here, but this is really nice. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start laying this out, and I'm lightly going to just sketch in large shapes, and I have these like bundles of flowers, and I just want to map out, I think, where they're going to live, and then I have big leaf shapes up here. And this is almost like a little bit of a contour drawing. I am looking at my paper, and you're probably wondering, you know, is she even drawing anything? And I have a few marks on my paper that I can see. And like I said, this is just really about laying out this plant. Okay, so I have finished sketching this, and I'm going to add in a light watercolor wash in the background, and I added a little inset here because I had a little flower that fell off, so I did the inside, and then I did it flat, and then I also grabbed one of the stamens, and the pistil's really long, and I want to make sure that I get that in white, and I'll show you these right over here. You can see just how long they are, and they're kind of purple at the tip. And I want to make sure that I capture that the best that I can, so I'm probably going to add a little wash in the background so that the white pops, and I'll do that with ink more than likely. So I wanted to mention a couple of other tips. Tip number 2, if you're outside in your backyard and you're sketching, be sure to take a reference photo of your subject. So this is my subject, and sometimes the weather changes, sometimes life interrupts and we can't get to painting right away. Then you can always take this into your house and finish it, and you don't have to worry about not being able to, you know, get the colors right, or you've always got a reference built in when you take a photograph. And the third tip that I wanted to mention were supplies. So you can see what I've got out here. I've got a couple of brushes, I have my pens, and then I have this little travel watercolor palette that you've seen me work out of many times, and that's really all you need. I think that if we get a little bit too complicated with supplies and, you know, we're searching for the right supply to take outside, I think it's a form of procrastination in a way. Just grab your pen or grab your pencil if you're more comfortable with a pencil, and get outside. That's the big thing. And these sketchbooks and nature journals are for you, and you can use these any way that you would like. And for me, I like to document whether or not these are medicinal. I know with my comfrey plant, I'm going to add in some little notes about what it's good for, how it can be used, and probably the Latin name as well. And then I can annotate some other things in here about the day, about being outside, the date, the temperature, and that I filmed this one for YouTube. Things like that. It would be a really great way to look back on my nature journal and see, remember what that day was about. And I'm going to go ahead and start with the watercolor washes, and I'll see how far I get. I know the sun's starting to peek through these leaves, which always gives a little bit of a shadow to the paper, which can be a little bit weird to work on, but I'm gonna give it a go anyway. So here we go. So right now I am just adding a wet and dry wash in between some of these leaves and the stems and the flowers, just so that it kind of shows that there's stuff going on back here. And let's see. And I think actually this right here is part of this leaf, which is not a big deal. I can correct that because this leaf right here is going to be darker than this background that I'm painting in. So so what I'm trying to do is keep this wash a little bit darker toward the subject. And then I'll take my brush and rinse it out and take some water to soften the edge and kind of let it bleed out a little bit. So I finished adding in the flowers and also the little hairs. I just grabbed some white ink and added some little white hairs on the stem. And I've also got these parts labeled. So this is the calyx, and it has 5 lobes, and this is the style, and this is the inside of the flower, and then of course the full flower. And inside the flower are 5 stamens. So I wanted to make sure that I had that correct, so I made sure to look it up online so that I could label it correctly. And another quick tip, I have these elastic hair ties, and they're really nice because they're for fine hair. I think they help produce breakage, and they stretch pretty far. So I usually take one of these and wrap it around one end of my sketchbook to hold the pages down. So that's always a neat little tip, because most of us have these on hand anyway. So the last thing I'm going to do is finish adding in my lettering. I'm going to ink this, and I'm not sure if I'm going to paint it yet or if I'm just going to stick with ink. And I'm also going to add in some of the medicinal uses once I get my lines put in here again. They're crooked. And I think that probably wraps up this spread. So I'm going to speed this part up a little bit, and you can watch me finish up this lettering and finish up the entire spread. So I just finished wrapping up this journal spread, and this little guy is sitting on the feeder. I had to move it because they wouldn't go to it since I was sitting right by it. So I think they're happy now. Anyway, I have finished this spread, and I'm going to swing this camera around. Hopefully I can do that without making you sick. But here is the final spread, and I added in the lettering and went over it with a little bit of watercolor and added in some of the medicinal uses. I thought it was kind of interesting because I know this plant as nip bone, and actually used it when my husband separated a rib. So I made poultices out of it, and the Greek word symphytum, it comes from grow together and plant. So I thought that was really interesting, and I added a little bit of detail to the leaf. And I think that pretty much wraps up this backyard version of nature sketching and nature journaling. I hope this inspired you to grab your paints and head out to your backyard. There are so many things out here that provide inspiration, from bumblebees and butterflies. You can always, like I said, snap a picture and take an afternoon, and it's just really nice to be out in nature or your backyard, and I think just enjoy the piece and the painting and the sketching. So I will see you guys next time. Happy painting.